This episode is brought to you by Jira. Jira is the only project management tool you need to plan and track work across any team. So if you're a team of developers, Jira better connects you with teams like marketing and design, so you have all the information you need in one place. Plus, their AI helps you knock out the small stuff so you can focus on delivering your best work. Get started on your next big idea today in Jira.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Is the bond market going to bounce back? And you need to follow me on Good Pod, so go and get that right now while you're listening to this. I guess depending on how you're listening to this, that might be a little bit difficult, but go get Good Pods because we're going to talk about it. And we're also going to talk about content marketing. Enjoy.
Were you calling to me from outside of a dream? I wanna live, I wanna love you a little longer. I was invincible many years ago when I was so much stronger.
Welcome to the Age of Jeremy. My name is Jeremy Quintanilla. You might remember me from such businesses 3-2 Warrior Academy, Age of Radio, Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto, and Q Financial, just to name a few. This is a podcast about my journey as an entrepreneur, the things that I'm learning, not only as a business person or as an entrepreneur, but also in the things that I'm learning throughout my life. I'm sharing with you through this main podcast, Age of Jeremy. Eventually, we will have other interviews on here with other content creators, small business owners, and entrepreneurs to get to know them a little bit better so that you can learn from their stories and their experiences. So I encourage you to subscribe to the feed wherever you're listening to it and enjoy. Also, make sure that you follow me everywhere at Age of Jeremy. Also on Instagram, make sure that you join my Age of Jeremy Dope updates. I'm working on a title for that broadcast. So if you go to the profile of my profile, Age of Jeremy, in Instagram, you will see a broadcast channel called Dope Updates. Subscribe to that. We have about 38 members. It's more of an intricate look on the things that I'm doing. I'll be working to add other, benefits to it. It's absolutely free. One of the benefits is you get the opportunity to ask questions for me to answer here on the podcast. And so I would be super excited, or I am super excited to have a few people ask me questions in there. And for example, the people that are in that broadcast channel, they decided what I was going to talk about this week. So there are all kinds of benefits of being inside of that channel. So make sure that you go and join that channel as soon as possible. Go and do it right now or right after you listen to this podcast. I guess that would be okay. Also, follow Age of Radio on Instagram. We have a show called Mercury that I host with my good friend Trey, creator Trey. We talk about podcast news, Age of Radio news. We talk about gaming news, anime news, and we're going to get into doing other kinds of independent content creation news and indie gamer news as well. It's only live on Instagram, but then on-demand versions of it come out on YouTube and on X, and you can also listen to the YouTube version through our LinkedIn at Age of Radio account. We also have our Age of Radio verse feed on YouTube, where you can listen to most of our new podcasts, the podcasts that are still relevant, or I guess not relevant, the podcasts that are still putting out new episodes that are on Age of Radio. We have about 100 podcasts in total, and about 30 to 40 of them still put out regular content on a regular basis, but we have tons of podcasts that you can also listen, and we're getting our archived podcast up on our Age of Radio website. So you can head on over to ageofradio.com, but you can also listen to that at Age of Radioverse on YouTube. So make sure that you head on over to YouTube and subscribe to Age of Radioverse. The last thing that I want to mention, and then you can just check out all the cool links down below if you're interested in, but make sure to follow my business partner, Coach JV _ and listen to his podcast, the Coach JV podcast. It comes out every single day, Monday through Friday, talks about health, wellness, and everything in between, from motivation to things that are going on in the economy. And you can follow him wherever you get your social media at CoachJV_. And you can follow and watch our economic updates and the Good Morning Crypto Show on 3twarrioracademy.com. All kinds of stuff. Just go through the links below, follow us on social medias, get in touch with everything that we have going on, and you will be in the know. So let's jump into this episode. So it looks like bond traders were super excited about the future, and now they're less super excited about that future because strong growth in payrolls sends the treasury yields surging, and when treasury yields go up, the price of bonds essentially go down. So bond traders buckle up for no landing after jobs surprise. And so this is a Bloomberg article. I recommend that you subscribe to Bloomberg. As I mentioned, subscribe to Bloomberg, The Economist, all kinds of news papers, I guess, or news media, just to stay up to date with what's going on. Again, I don't get to read it on a 100% regular basis, but I do utilize them and I read them and I get lots of notifications on my phone, and it's great. And we have so much information coming at us, but I think that you should do that as well, so you're not left in the dark, especially as it comes to business, and especially if you have a business and you're trying to figure out how to wade the waters through your business, I guess would be the best way to put that. So the no landing scenario is a situation where the U.S. economy keeps growing, inflation reignites, and the Federal Reserve has little room to cut interest rates. This had largely disappeared as a bond market talking point in recent months, but it only took a blowout payrolls report to revive it. Data showing the fastest job growth in 6 months, a surprising drop in U.S. unemployment and higher wages and treasury yields surging, and had investors furiously reversing course on bets for a larger than normal half-point interest rate reduction as soon as next month. So again, the Fed cut the interest rates by 50 basis points or 0.5%, and it looks like they're going to do it. The thought was that they were going to do another 50 basis points, but that might 50 basis points, but that might change because of the fact that the economy is now booming again, apparently. It's the latest wrenching recalibration for traders who had been setting up for slowing growth, benign inflation, and aggressive rate cuts by piling into Fed rate-sensitive short-term U.S. notes. Instead, Friday's report revived a whole new set of worries around overheating, spoiling the rally in treasuries, right? Because when those interest rates drop, treasuries are going to go up or bonds are going to go up. And this had sent 2-year yields to a multi-year low. The pain trade was always higher front-end rates due to less rate cuts being priced in, said a fixed income specialist, George Catrombone at DWS Americas. I hate pronouncing names. I give a big shout out to broadcasters who can say names really good, because I guess they probably try to pronounce them beforehand, and I don't do that, so maybe I should do that. But George Catrombone, I apologize for butchering your name. What could happen, he said, is that the Fed either delivers no more rate cuts or actually finds itself having to raise rates again. Okay. And so that's kind of what we're dealing with now that the job rates actually came back better than we thought that it would. Much of the recent market debate had centered on whether the economy would be able to achieve the soft landing of deceleration without a recession or veer into the hard landing of a severe downturn. The Fed itself had signaled a shift in focus toward preventing a deterioration in the job market after fighting inflation for more than 2 years, and its pivot to rate cuts began with a 0.5 point bang in September. But Friday's payroll report provided ammunition for those who see a disconnect in the Fed cutting rates when stocks are at a record high, the economy is expanding at a solid pace, and inflation has yet to return to the Fed's target. In short, a no-landing scenario. A number of prominent investors and economists, including Stanley Druckenmiller and Mohamed El-Erian, cautioned that the Fed shouldn't be boxed in by market projections for lower rates or its own projections, with El-Erian warning inflation is not dead. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers said in a post on X Friday that no landing and hard landing are risks the Fed has to reckon with, saying last month's outsized cut was a mistake, which is exactly what I said last month prior to it. For some, the Fed's outsized reduction last month, combined with China's surprising stimulus blitz, tilt the balance away from growth concerns. The 50 basis point cut should be out of question now, said Tracy squishy chin, meaning that there's not going to do another 50 basis points in the coming months because the economy looks to be pushing itself to, I guess, consumer sentiment of it growing, which means that we're going to run into more situations with inflation and more situations with growth. But the jobs number came back. So it means that we're not pushing ourselves closer to a recession, which means that we're just building the bubble larger and larger, in my opinion, which is why the reason why I didn't want them to cut rates before. Meanwhile, inflation concerns are reviving after crude oil surged. The 10-year break-even rate, a measure of bond traders' inflation expectation, reached a 2-month high, rebounding from a 3-year low in mid-September. That's ahead of key data on consumer prices due next week. Make sure that you follow Bloomberg for more. Make sure that you get a subscription. Set up your notifications. Go follow them on X. Follow me on X. I put a lot of great Bloomberg articles out there talking about the economy, where the economy is going, pushing things that are good for entrepreneurs. The reason why this is important for us to understand, especially as entrepreneurs, is because it lets us kind of know where the economy is going, so we can make better decisions on how we're going to push ourselves and how we can try to, I guess, for lack of a better way, profit from what's going on in the society. So, for example, knowing something like this, you might put yourself in a position where you're going to run a better sale, because right now, depending on how consumer sentiment has been in the last couple of months, a lot of people weren't spending the same. Now that things are looking good, people are going to start feeling good about the economy. They're going to start spending more. So this is a prime time to capitalize on that by maybe cutting some of your costs to get more cash flow coming in, to save some of that as you go into knowing that in the future, they're probably going to run into a position where we're going to have to pull back or do something to the economy. So you want to make sure that you're selling yourself up, not only for your personal finances, but for your business finances, that you're setting yourself up in a really good position and taking advantage of what's going on right now to help prevent you from running into a problem into the future. And that's why knowing stuff like this is important. And that's the reason why I try to bring it to you. The whole goal of the news section of this podcast is to make sure that you know what's going on with the economy for the most part, and then anything that's going on with taxes or how to increase your wealth. And again, I'm going to be working on doing more and more things for this. And one of the places that I'm trying to do a lot of that is for that Dope Updates broadcast channel on Instagram. So make sure that you go and you join that broadcast channel. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Okay, so one of the things that I always talk about is that we have to be that we're social creatures. We have to build a community. And one of the communities that I found that seems to be a kind of a really cool concept, and I'm going to be diving more into this, and this is what I wanted to talk about during the social portion of the podcast this week, is Good Pods. So essentially, if you don't know what Good Pods is, it is a podcast app, but it's more about following your friends to discover new podcasts, track your podcast listens, and bookmark podcasts for later. So if you head on over to goodpods.com, I really highly recommend that you set up an account here, especially if you have a podcast, because it's a great place to build a community surrounded by podcasts. So when you get it set up, there is an Android app, there is an iPad app. And one of the cool things about this, and again, this isn't necessary, I guess if you have a podcast and we're talking about content creation, and I know that podcasts is a very, very big part of content marketing and content creation. But if you have something like this or you're involved with podcasts, I really highly recommend that you jump in to Google Pods, just because there's all from my look at it so far, the little bit that I've been spending in it and the little bit that I've been learning about it, it is a much better place for community building around podcasts and for having your friends share with you the podcast that they're listening to and for discovering podcasts, in my opinion. So when you go, you're just going to set it up like you normally would. It doesn't cost anything, but what's really cool about it is you can actually search for friends. So for example, creator Trey is on there. Me and him follow each other. And because of that, when I go to my feed now, I can see the things that my friends are following and they can see the things that they are following. Okay. So for example, like I'm listening to prioritize this: resistance, love, and the importance of failure. So if I go there, I can see that someone's listening to that right now. I can see that if Trey goes there, he can see that I'm listening to it. I can jump into that podcast. And what's really great about this, and this is something that I really liked about Breaker, which was bought by X that eventually became X Spaces, is I can go into this and I can join in on the conversation. So I can put a comment here. We can have conversations about this. I can set up those notifications on my phone so I get those notifications. And one of the things that I know that people get frustrated about, and there's times that you kind of need to turn those notifications off or set your phone aside. And there are ways to do that from like do not disturb perspective. But what's great about phones, even though it can become kind of annoying, right? And I talk about this from an attention span perspective, that we're constantly inundated. I don't have the sound on, so I don't really know that any notifications came to my phone. What's important about that is when I do want to go back to my phone, I can check on all the notifications and I can make the decision on where I want to go and comment and build conversation. And that's more of the reason why I think that this is so important for building your brand and building your podcast for what you're trying to accomplish. So I really recommend that you get on this so I can start a conversation. I can create different lists. So if I go to lists and I create a new list, I can put the best podcasts for, or best podcasts to, the best podcasts about, the best podcasts like. I could put the best podcasts for whatever it is that I can want, and then I can create a list of those podcasts and I can make that public. I can share it with people. I can do all kinds of stuff with it. So that's really beneficial. The other thing that I really like about Good Pods is if you go to the blog, they have all kinds of great information for you. Like they have best podcasts for teenagers, motivational podcasts for women, recent articles, Christian podcasts for women. So there's all kinds of great things that you can do with the list. And it's kind of similar to how you can do things with lists with X. From what I can tell, I haven't fully dived into it. It's something that Trey and I are looking at to kind of find a more of a independent way to listen to podcasts than some of the other ways that most people listen to them. And also the fact that you can build a community around this. When I think about what I want the Age of Radio application to be in the future, it has a lot of these types of things in it where there's a lot of community building, a lot of conversation that can get started around stuff. One of the things that I found a lot of benefit in my life over the last couple of months was that I am able to communicate better with people on social and build real relationships with them or real like acquaintances with them. And I think that if we move ourselves away from trying to say, what can I get from social and what can I do with social to benefit my life, not just from a perspective of gimme from them, but like, how can I give back to people in that? And how can we build real relationships? I think we'll use social media in a lot better way. So again, make sure that you try out Good Pods. Again, there's home, feed, library, discover, lists. You can set up alerts. You can change your profile. There's a blog, and then there's settings. And again, there's an Android app. So again, for the social this week, it's nothing specific about a specific social media platform and what to do with it. But again, it's about building community. And I think one of the best places to build that community is on Good Pods as it relates to podcasts. So I encourage you to go and not only dive into lots of podcasts, become a lover of podcasts because it's a lover of sharing the information. And I think that the more that we can do that and have good intellectual conversations and listen to good intellectual conversations from podcasts, we can not only make ourselves better, but we can make the world better. I hope that made sense. We'll be right back.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
So we had someone from the Dope Updates channel ask me a question. They didn't ask me the question in the Dope Updates channel, but they did ask me a question. And I think it's worth mentioning on here because I think that it's very important for people to spend time meditating. If you're new to this podcast or you don't listen to it on a regular basis, I do spend a lot of time studying Buddhism and metaphysics and hope to have some, content that comes out about those topics in the future. and I hope that you will be a part of listening to them. One of my ideas, just sharing with you, is to do a spaces about metaphysics and religious conversation and philosophy conversation, and have it as an X spaces where we can get more people involved with the conversation and get people communicating with it. That's one of the reasons why I love Clubhouse. I don't know why I went back to Clubhouse. I love spaces. I've used Clubhouse, but I like that concept, that audio concept where people can be a part of the conversation. And so one of the questions that was asked was, what's some of the best ways to meditate? And it's a very difficult question because it all depends on what you mean by meditate is different, and it is too broad. A lot of people think of meditation as not thinking. And so when we think of it that in that context, I think Zazen works the best way to clear our mind and to stop intrusive thoughts from happening. And by intrusive thoughts, I don't mean like bad thoughts that we don't want to have. I mean just of a string of thinking that can take us over with all of the stuff that goes on inside of the world. So the advice that I gave to that individual is the first thing that needs to be done is to start thinking about setting time aside every day to meditate. I find for me that the best time to meditate is in the morning and in the evening. Now, I tend to do it in the evening because it lets me kind of let go of all the stuff. And I'm always in a hurry when I wake up in the morning because with the way in which my day is broken out, I have to be available in the evening for meetings for people that are in different places that are still working during the day. And then I have to be available for our meetings in the morning because of the people that are having the morning meetings. And so because I run multiple businesses in different capacities, I have to be available for certain things, at 7:30, 8 in the morning, and then also at 6:30 and 7 at night. So that's just the reality of my current situation that, again, I'm responsible for. And so definitely don't want to make it sound that's like a complaint or anything. I mean, it's my situation and it's the one that I created for myself, and I'm the one who can change it when I'm ready to change it. But the point is that, so because of that, it's hard to get up super, early to do the meditation when right when I'm done, I can do my workout and my meditation. So that's the way in which that I like to do it. So you have to find a time to do the meditation is the first thing. And you have to have that time regularly blocked out. One of the things that we fail to do with trying to get our lives moving forward is we don't plan out our lives. And because there's no planning out of the lives, we have a tendency not to do the things that we need to do to move ourselves forward. And that's because we're not setting time aside to work on them or to work on us, which is something that I'm definitely guilty of as well. So once you find the time to set up, the best way to start from what normal people think about meditation, and then I'll go into how meditation's different in different capacities. But what people think about meditation is stop your mind. Counting works really, really good. And that's the basis for Zen meditation. And I think that from just a meditation standpoint of what the Western world thinks of meditation, I think that that's the best place to start, in my opinion, because it allows us to get into a space of slowing our breath down, being in a place of stillness, and catching pockets of nothingness or pockets of enlightenment. And so the way that one works is, or the way that it works is, there's 3 different ways to start you down your path. And this was the advice that I gave to the individual that asked the question in our Dope Updates chat. Well, asked me, but is in the Dope Updates chat. So what you really want to start with is you always want to do a regular style breath. So you don't want it to be exasperated. You don't want to make it go longer. You don't want to do anything. You just want to get into a regular breath flow of you breathing in and out of your nose. So I'm going to try that. My allergies are always a little bad, but just because I have allergies. But I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to kind of be just breathing regularly. Okay, so you bring yourself to a stillness and you're just breathing. Then what you end up doing is you start counting 1 in your mind. So when you're breathing in through your nose, you just say 1 in your mind, and then when you're breathing out, you just say 2. So this is what it'll sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you do that up until 10, and then you start over again. And again, you're not saying that out loud. You're just counting inside of your head as you're breathing in through your nose, and then you're breathing out through your mouth. But you're not doing it in any capacity that's different than just a normal breath, okay? You're not trying to exasperate it. You're not trying to go... it's just a regular breath motion that you're doing. Then what you do is after you get good at doing that for a little bit, then you breathe in and you count only on your in breaths. Okay. And then you don't count on your out breath. So it might sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reason why we do that is most thoughts are created from our in-breath. They're usually stopped more on our out-breath because we're not breathing. And so when it gets hard, it's easier, right, to count on our in-breath to stop the thought from happening. And then when we're breathing out, we're usually not thinking because we're breathing out, okay? And that goes into kind of like breath retention on the way out, which we'll talk about slightly in a little bit here after this. So then what you want to do is after you get good at that, you move on to the next stage. And the next stage is you're breathing in, and then you're counting on your out breath. So it might sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and you do that to 10, and then you start again. And the reason why you do that last is because the idea is that you'll have at this later stage, you have more control. You're not thinking on your in breath, and then you're counting on your out breath when normally we stop thinking on our out breath. Okay. Because thoughts come in on our in-breath. Okay, so that's how you kind of go from a standpoint of doing Zazen, or to get to the place what most people think of meditation without ever thinking. And then if you follow more of a Zen path, you'll start working with cones. You'll start working in not counting and just sitting. So that's like the main way in which people think of meditation. Now, that being said, you can get a lot of insight from this over time doing this, and you'll get pockets of enlightenment, and you'll create compassion and empathy, and you'll be all around better and calmer and know more of what's going on. But after that, I'm sorry, not after that, but the other way to do it is to do more Kundalini breath work and more yoga breath work, or Wim Hof style breathing, I guess. And so I recommend that you head on over to reconnect or follow Jeremy Munich on social media. He created an app that he does a lot of like lots of different style breaths where you're coming in or you're just doing in your nose and you're going out. And he has all kinds of different breath work techniques that he does. But Jeremy Munich is his name. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of his app. I haven't subscribed to it yet, but I want to, not only to support my friend, but he is a fantastic breath work specialist that I think that you should follow. The other person, and I'm trying to think, it's like breath. Breathe. Dang it. Hold on, let me go see if I can find it on his social media real quick. We'll all do this together. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. You're in with me for the long haul. We'll look it up right now. It'll be okay. Okay, so it's called Air. I don't know what I thought of. Okay, so it's AYR Breath, airbreath.com. And he can take you through all kinds of different breath work. And then you do longer retention, like you do longer hold in, you do longer retentions out. And the reason why we do that is because when you're going without the breath, you're not thinking, you start to like get more of a sense of who you are. And a lot of stuff kind of starts to be I guess, released through those experiences, like emotionally. Like you can start to remember stuff. You can go through psychedelic experiences with this type of breath work that gets you to open up your mind more, gets you to go deeper in who you are, in yourself, what's going on in your life. And so a lot of stuff can get uncovered with this type of breath work. And it comes mainly from Kundalini breath work. There's another practitioner that I follow called his name's Sandy, and it's Breathing with Sandy that I highly recommend that you check out as well. Now, Breathing with Sandy's out. There's a ton of free stuff. His longer sessions you have to buy his Patreon for, but he has all kinds of stuff from teaching you Brastika, which is my favorite breath work to do. You do a lot of breath of fire stuff that you might not do with Jeremy Mudick. At least I've never done breath of fire with Jeremy Mudick. And so so they kind of like, I think air breath or AYR breath works really, really good. And if you go deeper with his breath work, he may do that stuff. I haven't gone that deep with Jeremy's breath work. I do weekly breath work with Breath with Sandy through his YouTube videos. I try to do it at least a few times a week, and I'll probably do a session after this tonight. And so I think that if you're wanting to look more introspectively and try to get a lot of the stuck emotions out of your consciousness or your subconsciousness out into your consciousness, I think breath work works a lot better than that. So I think it all depends on what you want to do with meditation. But if you go down the path of breath work, just be mindful that if you give into it and you give up for it, you will start to uncover and learn a lot more about you, and it can work to change your life. So a lot of the times as you get better at that, then you can do the breath work, and then you can go into the sitting stillness meditation, where you can learn how to calm your mind and to calm your thoughts and to have more control over your thoughts, right? Because the other one doesn't really focus, the breath work doesn't focus on that specifically the way that the meditation does, but the breath work does get you into really good still points of not breathing. But you don't do it for long periods of time. So again, they have different purposes, but they can work in tandem. So I'll do breath work and then I'll do my sitting meditation. So again, you can do both of them, and I encourage you to do them. And so I hope that answers the question from our Dope Updates channel around meditation. And I would do those on a regular basis. And if you follow my Dope Updates channel, I can put some of those videos in there for you to see what I'm talking about. Or if you want to ask a question, you can also snap me and ask me questions, but I prefer that you do it inside of the Instagram broadcast channel for the Dope Updates. We'll be right back. My favorite thing to talk about is probably content marketing, because I love making content. Am I the best at it? Absolutely not. Could I be better at it? Yes, put more time into preparation also, right? So again, in writing the podcasts and writing the videos and writing, my email campaigns and stuff, a lot of stuff happens really fast, and we have to keep moving with the content and slowly work to move the content better. So before I get into what content marketing is, I will say that that's the one thing I want you to remember is that make the content, keep working on making the content better, and keep reassessing and reevaluating yourself and making a constant feedback loop of the content you're creating, no matter what it is. So what do I mean by content marketing? I guess is the best place to kind of start with this is like, what does that even mean? And so content marketing is essentially utilizing some type of content, usually it's free, to drive people to understand who you are, make itself over to your profile, somehow get into a lead magnet to get into your email campaign, or to get a phone number or an address of the client, and then you work to sell them whatever it is that you're selling, okay? So it's no different than marketing. Marketing is designed for like the messaging system of to get people into your funnel and then to sell them something. Well, content marketing is the same way. The idea is just to create a way for something that is educating, that is engaging your audience, and you're not directly selling to them. And then over time, they will get into a funnel, right? And then you'll be able to sell them. So what it does is it creates better brand awareness. It creates better customer engagement. It increases SEO. It leads to higher conversion rates. And so the thing is, a lot of people don't know how to get started in it, one, and they don't do it long enough, two. So the best podcast that you can listen to for content marketing, I'm not going to say the whole podcast is about content marketing and talks about content marketing. It's called This Old Marketing. And it is a fantastic podcast. It's what introduced me into going deeper into marketing as it relates to podcasts, where I was at in my life. It made me fall in love with marketing again because I got my bachelor's in finance. And after that, I wanted to get an MBA, but I didn't want to specialize in finance because it wasn't much different than the information that I already had in finance, rather than going and getting a master's in finance and getting a PhD in finance or finance. And then I went and got, so I did it in marketing because that's the second most exciting thing to me as it relates to how we go out and create and sell products and services to people. Because if we think about it, marketing is the thing that sales and advertising is bucketed up under. And so marketing is like the messaging and the strategy, and then sales and advertising are all part of marketing, in my opinion. And so I am a big fan of marketing. I'm a big fan of consumer research as it goes to marketing. And so when I went into the bank, it was more all about, I just got to get a job so that I can get money, so that I can get health insurance, rather than doing what I've always regretted my whole life and work and not going into academia in some capacity as well. But I do love the academia of marketing and the academia or academics of finance. Not so much accounting. Taxes I really, really enjoy. But if I could go back, accounting is not necessarily my favorite thing from a public accounting position. Now, from bookkeeping and taxes, love it. Managing accountants, love it. Doing the accounting itself all of the time and the auditing, absolutely, probably is not the thing for me. And so it took me a long time to be able to kind of say that, where if I could have gone back, which again, never live in regrets, but probably wouldn't have done the finance. But the point, or probably wouldn't have done the accounting, focused more on the finance, and had gone harder in that, and I could have been further in the finance field than I currently am. But again, I'm very grateful, and I've accomplished a lot with my businesses, and we will keep accomplishing more and more with them. And so, but content marketing, so listening to this old marketing reignited that love for content, having conversations, selling, advertising, coming up with messaging, trying to get people into the funnel. And so I recommend that that if there's one podcast that you follow and listen to, you can follow me on Good Pods. I'll put the link in the episode description of my Good Pods account, and I'll go and follow and subscribe to This Old Marketing. And then you can just follow me and you can see what I'm listening to. So it'd be beneficial for you to get Good Pods. And again, we're not sponsored by Good Pods. I'm just a fan of what they're trying to do. And I want to talk more about that as we go deeper into our media company. And so the first problem is that people don't know where to start with it. So I would find out what your audience likes, or to make an assessment of who is your audience for either your brand or your business. Okay. And then once you find that out and get more information on that, or make an educated guess or an educated wish, as Deadpool likes to say, you can kind of get a sense of who it is that you're going after and who it is that already listens to you, and then build out your type of content marketing based around that. So again, one of the most biggest content marketing pieces that exist right now is podcasts, whether that's a video, what we're calling video podcast now, or an audio podcast, or a live stream, or an on-demand video, or whatever. To me, a podcast is still a piece of audio that can get distributed via an RSS feed, and it'll be probably die on the hill talking about that specific concept. But that doesn't mean that that's the only place that it can be. You could find that blog posts are easier for you, and you find that your audience like blog posts more. So you could spend a lot of time writing blog posts. You could write better articles on LinkedIn. You could just use social media as a format to create that content. But the most common one, like I said, are podcast videos and blog posts. So I would recommend that you start thinking about those three things, and whether or not your audience or the people that you're going after would be interested in one of those things, and then start creating some type of show or content around it. And so for instance, like Age of Jeremy is a show in and of itself that can get money if we sell ads to, but the main purpose of it is for me to educate you on what I'm going through, and you to learn about the things that I'm doing, and then lead you over into the brand that I'm building, and then the products and services that I'm selling through my businesses, right? So that's joining 3T Warrior Academy. That's learning more about Merlin. That's finding out about our insurance or our IUL. That's learning about Age of Radio if you want a podcast. And so so the goal then is for you to listen to this, and then from this, make your way over into my other social media platforms so that you can get closer to me, and then you can learn more about the things that I'm selling. That's how content marketing works for the most part. And so again, I would really recommend that the main piece that you focus on is creating a podcast, which we can definitely help you out at ageofradio.com, or creating a video show on YouTube, or creating a blog post. And so from there, you have to figure out it has to be designed to educate or designed to entertain in a way that allows you the ability to talk about the other thing that you're trying to push them to or to get them to. So one of the best ways to do this, and most people don't have like 9,000 things going on like I do, but the idea behind it is like this podcast, I'm teaching you how to do this, right? And so then what I would do is what you would do to get them further down into your funnel, right? Later on in your funnel, more engaged, is I would say, okay, so I'm doing a special podcasting, how to podcast on this date. Go down, sign up for it, get into my free webinar. And then from there, I capture your email, and then I get you deeper into my funnel where I can retarget you, right? I can send you other type of content that I want you to learn and read about. And so that's kind of like the process of which it goes is you have this top level, you get them into the middle level, and then you get them to sell or to buy, I guess in this case. But there's other things that you could do. You could create an infographic that you could give away. Okay. The idea probably behind the infographic is to get an email for it. So I don't think that would be a regular content that you would do. You could do white papers, and you could do ebooks. I think of the white papers and the ebooks and the infographics as lead magnets to get people to give you their email or to go deeper into your funnel or to go deeper into your brand. But you could definitely create an ebook that you send out to people always for free. But more likely that type of content would be used for middle or for lead magnet type of content, where the top of funnel stuff for the entertainment piece of it or for the education piece of it would probably come from podcasts, videos, blog posts, and social media posts. So if you're happy with how your social media is going, you don't have to go and do a podcast. You can keep focusing on social media and keep adding to it. And that could be the content marketing. For example, that's how Coach JV has built that's how Coach JV and I have built 3T Warrior Academy, is through his social media free content along with the YouTube. It used to be that we would go from the TikTok channel to the YouTube and get people to buy on YouTube. Instagram has been doing really, really well for us. So we do free content on YouTube, and then every once in a while we do a call to action, and then we get people into a lead sequence that we can go and talk to them about the benefits of Indexed Universal Life Insurance, the benefits of our Warrior Ascension program, or whatever the case is. And so that's why I encourage people to go over to Coach JV, check him out, because he's a perfect example of how lead magnets, like the content marketing from a social media standpoint, works brilliantly. Now, we do have a podcast. We do have a podcast with the Coach JV podcast. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. That's driving awareness. That awareness is probably going back to social media and to YouTube. And then that's where the buying is actually happening. I don't know if on that specific podcast, as off the top of my head, that buying is taking place. But that's one of the things that we're going to go deeper into as we figure out, as we go deeper in becoming a media company and a podcast company, having more of our own advertisers on to make sure that people are going from the podcast over to those advertisers to purchase. So we will have numbers for those eventually. And then if I remember that I had this conversation with you guys in this podcast episode, I will come back to it. So again, you need to find out who it is that your audience is. Best guesstimate, if you don't know, how they like listening to you and what they would probably like. Once you find, and what I mean by what they would probably like, how they would like receiving the information. Like, I doubt that, like, yes, younger children listen to podcasts. Most of them are going to listen to YouTube. If I was doing something right now, if I was just starting again and I didn't enjoy podcasting so much and just talking like this from a radio perspective or from a microphone into the microphone perspective, I would probably more focus on video. That's one of the things that I am going to focus on into the future is video. But if I was starting right now, I would probably not choose an audio podcast. I would probably go a video podcast route. Or a video route and start a YouTube channel or a live video and do that every single day, or utilize a live video on my social media. That's where I think that most of the people are going to be at. But again, that's going to be definitely if I'm wanting to focus on young people. Maybe the people that are 35 to 45, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's podcasts, maybe they love blog posts, maybe they love reading about stuff. You need to dive into that, and then you can figure out what that content needs to be for you and your brand, but it's going to be different for everybody. So you're the only one that's going to know that. Okay. So again, the purpose is that the content marketing is about educating and engaging your audience rather than just completely selling to them and getting them deeper into your funnel. The type of content that you want to use is going to be relevant to your audience, but the most common ones are podcasts, videos, and blog posts, and social media. Okay. Outside of that, as you get good at that, then you want to create lead magnets. Okay. Infographics, ebooks, white papers, webinars that you invite people to from them following you on your social media, or maybe getting them into a broadcast channel if you want to take them deeper. That's one of the things that I'm doing right now. But again, from a specific business standpoint, I wouldn't push that. I'm doing that because that's something that I genuinely enjoy. I would say more along the lines, make a white paper, make an ebook, a book, make a webinar series that you can then tell people to, hey, I'm doing this webinar series. I'm doing a webinar series, register for it. Or I'm doing a bunch of event series on LinkedIn. Go and sign up for them. Here's the link. Give me your email address. And then you get their email address, her phone number, and then you can start nurturing them through different products and services you're trying to buy. That's how marketing, the funneling works. And the more and more that you understand that funneling and spend time on that funneling, the more successful you're going to be in your ventures. And so I would really highly recommend that you focus on that. Because again, marketing is more important in my opinion than anything else that we do inside of business, because of the fact that it's the thing that creates the revenue. And then after that, I think the second most important thing is probably finance and then management. But again, those are just my opinions. Some of the great resources for content marketing that you could think of. I would check out HubSpot. HubSpot is a customer relationship management tool. Not saying that you should get HubSpot, but they have like really good blogs that are really good for marketing. So I would recommend that you go over to there. I would make sure that you get some type of Google Analytics set up for your website. Make sure that you're monitoring how your analytics work as you go forward with content marketing. We can talk about analytics later, but I just want to put that in your ear for right now. And then again, I put this in our 3T Warrior Academy Mighty Network feed about content marketing, but you want to really define your goals. So what do you want to achieve with your content marketing? Do you want it to be increased traffic, more leads, better engagement? I would say the biggest thing that you want to do if you're doing the podcast, I mean, traffic is super important. You can do ads and some organic social media growth, and you need to increase traffic. Or is the traffic? I guess a better way to put that is increased traffic is good if you want to get them over to your website, right? My marketing scheme for this, my content marketing for this piece has a couple of things, but one of them is to get you guys over into my social media and deeper into my brand, and then I can sell you guys stuff along the way, right? But if I end up selling something, right, I'm going to try to get more leads from this specific website. So as I start building out more Q Financial, you might hear me at the beginning of this say, hey, go down to the form in the episode description, click on that. Let me do a free customized financial review for you, so that we can help you create generational wealth and protect your wealth. Okay. And so once you find that, and that's the thing that you're focusing on, you want to just start talking about that one thing. And that goal is then to get more leads and to drive more traffic. I have a lot of stuff that I'm testing and trying out. So you hear me say a lot of different stuff. But as I dial in more of that, and I recommend to you guys, don't kind of do what I say, not what I do type of thing. Find out what is the purpose of why you're creating the content marketing and focus on that one thing for as long as you possibly can, right? It might be that maybe I change it and the purpose of this podcast is to create this content and then to always just drive you to my social media. So it's like social media. And then on the social media, I get you into my Dope Updates channel, and then I'm able to sell you into all of the other stuff that I'm going on. That could be the better strategy in regards to this. But again, as I work on that, I'll share that with you because that's the purpose of this specific podcast. But as far as our other funnels go, it's always about the social media and the YouTube content driving people to our 3T Warrior Academy, our Index Universal Life Insurance, and our Warrior Ascension program. There's nothing else that we talk about. You have to hone in on those specific things, and you cannot be all over the place. Pick the 3 things, always talk about those three things. Maybe don't talk about them all at the same time. Maybe talk them about different times on social media and then talk about them all on your content. But again, you have to make the decision on this podcast or on the content marketing that you're doing. If the goal is to drive traffic somewhere, if it's to get someone to click on an ebook and give you a lead like an email, or if you're just trying to get more people to engage in the content. And again, as you grow, and this is something that I have to do, you have to know your audience. We spend a lot of time and energy focusing on knowing our 3T Warrior Academy audience. I don't know what the full audience looks like from Age of Radio. I don't know what the full audience looks like from the Age of Jeremy. For a couple of reasons with Age of Jeremy. One, I bought followers. I'm trying to fix that problem and solve that. I did that on Instagram. I didn't do that on TikTok. TikTok, all of that is organic and some paid advertising to push my stuff out more. And so I need to get a better idea of the audience. The best way to do that is always through surveys. One of the things that I'm going to be working on to get done here over the next couple of months is with Age of Radio to build out a survey that then goes out to do a giveaway to get people to complete the survey so that I can get a sense of the people that are listening on Age of Radio. If they like, what's their favorite podcast that they listen to? What is their age? What is their income? What is, their, what kind of ads do they like? You'll build out all kinds of questions, but then going and getting that and then having that information to understand your audience better. Because the more that you understand your audience, the more that you can tailor things to continue to attract more of that audience or to get them to make a buying decision. Then create a content plan, outline the types of content that you'll create, how often you publish, and where you'll distribute it. And then I would say to add to that and then stick with the fucking plan. I've done that plan building so many times. I'm going to post this on this day. I'm going to post this on this day. I'm going to post this every other week. I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And you end up, me personally, I ended up saying too much and not delivering. So I pulled it back a ton and just kind of keep focusing on making the main thing, I guess would be the way to say it, that I love podcasting. So I just want to continue to go hard on podcasting and then trickle in some other things every once in a while in other areas, which will lead me to something else that I want to talk about after these steps to get started. And then produce high quality content. So focus on creating valuable, relevant, and engaging content. If people aren't listening to your content, it either means two things. One, that whatever the content wasn't enticing for them enough if they saw it, or they're not seeing it because you're not doing enough of it and you're not advertising it. It could be a little bit of both. Whenever I'm advertising my podcast, I get longer listens, I get more people listening. But then when I leave it up to the algorithms of the distribution channels, they kind of fall off. The other thing too is there's tons of content out there. So people may not always see the content right when it comes out. They might have to go back to it. Okay. I was just looking at some of my most listened to podcasts on Good Pods, and some of them are from a while ago, just because people keep finding them and it's something that was engaging. So then what can I do with that information? I can look and see what made that so good. And then I can start doing that again. Or what I can end up doing is, or you just keep doing it and you'll find pockets of those types of episodes and podcasts that really do good. The better thing to probably do is to then kind of assess it and look at it to see how you can make more of it. But we're not going to go further into that. And then produce high quality content. I go back and forth on this. I think people love good content, whether or not it sounds good or not. That being said, I've listened to some of my past episodes where I was just rushing through them. I was just doing it because I wanted to get them out. My mouth bounced back and forth from the microphone. I was sitting farther away. I'm doing some of that right now. And so when you kind of want to have some good guidelines of making really good, high quality content. And because people respect that, I guess, more, because oh, you're making this content. Well, you're making it shitty. You must not fucking care about it. And that is a very valid thought process that I think people have, and a very valid thought that people have. And so I think that we do need to focus on producing high quality content. However, I don't think that that's going to be the measure of what's going to get people to listen to you. If the content is so good and so valuable, people are going to listen to you no matter how shitty the quality of the content sounds. And then you got to promote your content. That's one of the things that I think people struggle with, is they make the podcast and they don't do any marketing for it themselves. You need to, whether you're not on Age of Radio, yes, we'll work on marketing some of your stuff, your podcast, but you need to go and then market that stuff too. Put clips in, get involved with groups, share your content places, have conversations about it, start communities around your podcast. It's like you can't rely on just one thing that's going to be doing it. You need to go and continue to consistently build that brand and make it better and try new things and get it out there, and it will grow over time. It just depends on, what your goals are, of what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. That's one of the most important pieces of it, right? So like the goal of this podcast has always been to share with you things that I'm learning as it comes to, to business. That's the main purpose of the content. However, there's other things that I want to talk about with you that I don't think deserve to have another show. So then I have other segments that I create inside of the feed, like the lo-fi stuff that's more about like the cultural stuff that I'm getting involved with. And then as we go in, and then I do have an idea for another show on a different platform, but I'll probably bleed that into this as special episodes for you guys to then get you to what? Go over to the other place and listen to it. Again, the content marketing piece. So there's all kinds of great stuff that you can do with marketing, but you have to be marketing it. You have to be selling it. You have to be on social media about it. It has to be out there in the world doing great things for people. And so I encourage you guys to continue to work on that and make it better and do all kinds of stuff for it. Because like eventually the way that I think about them, every show should have a feed of some kind, should have a social media. So I'm going to be starting a show called, on my podcast, or a show called the hell am I calling it? Try This at Home. I forgot what I was calling it. Try This at Home. That's all about practicing religious and magic and taking it back from the house to the house, trying, testing stuff, getting more involved with it, getting other spiritual people. Now, the better thing to do now that I'm talking about this, and that's why it's going to talk it out, it should have its own Instagram feed. It should be on that feed, and I should be a host on that show, right? And so it should kind of not be 100% live from my feed, or it can be live from my feed and then the other feed can join in as well. So you kind of have to get an idea of what it is that you're trying to do and what's the full branding and the concept of that specific idea and show. And then you need to make those assessments on how you want to go about it. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. It'll make more sense as I do it, and I'll try it and I'll let you guys know how that feels and what should be happening with it. So it's not all crazy wazy. And then you need to measure and adjust. You have to have metrics to measure and adjust. The number one measurement that I've been looking at is engagement on my social media and on my podcast. It's just listens for right now. I just want more people listening than there were last month. I want more people involved with it. I want more listening on it. And then I will worry about creating other metrics from there. Those might not be the best analytics for you specifically. And to be honest, I'll probably talk more about analytics as we move further, because analytics is a big piece of the things that when I say we, me and my businesses need to be getting better and better at. But essentially, those are the things of how to get started. Define your goals, know your audience, create your content plan, make sure that you're consistent with it, produce high quality content, promote your content, and then measure and adjust. And the measurement can only take place from analytics. So you have to get good measurements of what's happening. And so spend some time learning about analytics, and then I'll work on creating some show talking points about analytics that we can follow for content marketing. In fact, just so I don't forget, I'm just going to write a note right now so I don't forget. I don't have a pen, so this note's going to be weird because it's going to be in a highlighter. I'm just going to write analytics on it, and then hopefully I know what the hell I'm talking about when we get to it. Analytics. Oh, you know what I'll do for AOJ, the Department of Justice. I said AOJ, Age of Jeremy, but I does have a resemblance to the Department of Justice. But we're not going to talk about that right now. All right. So make sure that you do those 6 things. Define your goals, know your audience, create a content plan, produce high quality content, promote your content, measure, and adjust. The last thing that I'm going to say before we close out this show is give it time. Do not go into something making it the thing that has to feed and support your family right away. Give things time. Yes, I give things way too much time, but before you start another project, start one content marketing piece, do it for 9 months, assess it every single month, try to make it better over those 9 months. At the 9 months, say, hey, I want to continue this bad boy. And then I also want to start this other thing. 9 months is a rule of thumb. Try it for 9 months before you make any true assessments on whether or not you want to keep doing it. Do it for 9 months, every month, reassess, make better assessments, find yourself in a feedback loop, make it better, but do not stop. Keep doing it 9 months. Don't start one thing, then start another thing, then start another thing. I did that. I do that. I need to get better at it. I'm talking to myself. I say this so many times because I'm saying it to myself, but that's something that we definitely need to work on in content. We have to keep doing it for a long enough period of time before we assess it. And then after that, you could make it where like, okay, yeah, it may not made sense. So I never went 100% hardcore as I wanted to in this podcast. It's always like a weekly thing. I get the content out. I never advertise it as much as I want to. I never push it the way that I want to. I haven't gotten the guests on it that I want to. But at the end of the day, this is something that I just enjoy doing. And it might be something that you end up just enjoy doing, that you just want to keep working at it and working it at it and working at it and working at it because you like it. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And you should keep doing that. What I'm specifically talking about is don't start your podcast for your brand or your business. Give it like 3 weeks. Be like, this is fucking stupid. And then start something new or start adding the stuff. Just put all of those ideas in a little book. I have my innovation idea book that has all kinds of things that I wish that I was doing right now, but I'm focusing on them. I'm planning them. I'm focusing on the ones that I have. I'm making them better. I'm planning on the other things, how they all fit together so that it can just be this giant reoccurring snowball effect of all of the things that I'm working on and all the brands and businesses that I have. And that's what I highly, highly encourage for you as well. As we always say, be thankful, grateful, and kind, and we'll talk with you next time. Bye.
You were born in your dying, honey, I'm already crying for you.
Thank you so much for listening to this show. Hopefully you're following me on Good Pods after you're listening to that. If you are following me on Good Pods, go ahead and rate this show because it does allow you to rate it. Make sure that you subscribe it, share it with your friends, put it in a list, do all kinds of stuff. If you're not on Good Pods and you're listening to the show, like it if your podcatcher allows you to, subscribe to it and share it. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Make sure that you head on over to Instagram and to my profile at Age of Jeremy and join my broadcast channel, Dope Updates. The opening song was Positive Change. I can never remember the name of that song. Positive Change by Gaslight Anthem. The closing song was Gardens by Trevor Hall. I use Neumann microphones. I'm going to be switching that out here soon for not because there's a better microphone than Neumann, but for another reason. But I'm using my Neumann KSM 104. I'm recording into Cubase through my Zoom L8, and I will be using Waves plugins. And one last time, be thankful, grateful, and kind. Bye.